Welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about enlightenment. It's a topic that I'm always hesitant to talk about because it's a very I suppose far out there topic that people see it, I think, as as a concept that just means like you're really peaceful, or people joke, they when using the word enlightenment, they use it in a joking way. It's like, oh, my power went out and I had no internet, and I just had to sit there for an hour, and it's like, oh man, you must have became enlightened. You must have just meditated like a monk and became enlightened. Ha 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 ha. It's kind of like that. It's like people don't really understand what it is. People think it's some, I don't know, like, I don't know what people think, like, when people think of like monks, and it's like a whole different world to other people. It's like a whole different world. It's like here we are in the West, in our society, with the internet and overconsumption and consumerism, all this stuff. We think this is just a normal way of living, and we look at like this other, like, Eastern way of living, like monks meditating and staying in a monastery, and we see that as like a completely different world. What's actually going on there? I don't know. That's weird. We're the normal ones, they're weird. And it's like, yeah, but so it's a hard thing to talk about in the West without being seen as like, sort of like, I don't know, like a hippie. Like, people see hippies as, we put people in these categories. We label people, and it's like, we're normal, and the hippies and monks out there are doing weird shit. They're, in La La Land, But the thing is that you don't have to be a hippie or a monk to understand this shit and to recognize what is actually going on here. Like, you can go about your normal day-to-day life and still be exploring this kind of shit. So anyway, it's just, I want to talk about enlightenment in this video, but I just want to first I just want to first say that it's not an easy thing to talk about for me. I mean, it's easy enough to talk about on camera, but with other people, and to explain what it actually is not easy. And to explain what I actually want to do in my life, to explain what I want to focus on, and to explain what I think my purpose is in life, it's not easy. It's like, what do you want to do with your life? What kind of career do you want? What kind of relationships do you want? What kind of, it's like, that's all secondary for me. That's all good. Like, it's good having a career that you love doing. It's good having healthy relationships. But to me, that's all secondary. The very first and foremost thing is, I want to be enlightened. I want to awaken to truth. And, that's a thing that talking about that makes me very hesitant to talk about that. It's a what do you want to do in your life? What's your purpose? Oh, I want to become enlightened. People don't fucking know what that is. And to be fair, I don't really know what that is. Like, this is the other thing, is that enlightenment is a vague term. So the Buddha said enlightenment is the end of suffering. So it's like, when you put it like that, it's kind of like, well, everyone wants that. It's like, what's your purpose in life? I want to end suffering. And automatically people think you want to end suffering means you've got to like help people in the world. But really, it always starts with you. You've got to end your own suffering. And then you do whatever you can to relieve other people's suffering without imposing your role of the helper onto them. But first and foremost, you've got to relieve your suffering. You've got to see the no suffering, you know? So anyway, that's a definition of enlightenment. That's one way of it. You know, another way would be like seeing things clearly, seeing things as they are, not as you are, not your projections onto things. Seeing things clearly. And I think this is the other thing that trips people up, is that, what do you mean seeing things clearly? Is there a clear way to see? Or can we never know the absolute truth? Are we always just going to be imposing our own perception and projection onto reality? Or other people think that the way that they see reality is how reality is. It's like, I am seeing clearly. What do you mean you want to see clearly? Do you not see clearly already? Well, no, because I'm imposing my fears and desires onto reality. And that's not reality itself. And ultimately, desire and craving causes suffering. And it's not the road to go, you don't go down the road of like, okay, I'm not going to desire anything, because you do desire. You can't trick yourself into thinking that you don't desire. You can't make believe that you have no desire. You can't imitate an enlightened person that has no desire. The truth is that I have tremendous amount of desire. And that's what you got to start with. You got to start with honesty. But yeah, really, it's craving. It's like you want something or you don't want something, and if you don't get what you want or you get what you don't want, that's suffering. And so best to cut it off at the root cause, which is desire and craving. Like I said, you can't make believe you don't have desire. You know, you could be like, I don't know, but yeah. So anyway, it's also, yeah, like, enlightenment is a vague term that I don't quite really understand what it is referring to. It seems to me it encapsulates a lot of insights into the nature of self and reality. And one of the big insights is the insight into no self, into the reality that there is no self. And this is you know, because I've had enlightening glimpses, you know, I understand what these people are pointing towards, this whole practice. You know, to some extent. So no self is really the recognition, the realization that everything is dependent on other causes and conditions. Everything that is happening right now is all happening because of what has happened before. It's like the butterfly effect. Like a butterfly in some other country, if that butterfly wasn't there, or it was, say, moving at a slower speed, if it was just a little bit different, then a fucking tornado could occur in some other place of the world. It's that thing that everything is dependent on everything else, that everything has a ripple effect, no matter how small it is. And this is also, when you grasp that everything is happening because of how everything works together to make it into now. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but everything is dependent. The way things are dependent on how everything else is. If something was a tiny bit different, then everything else would be different. And so this is an insight into no self, when you see that who you think you are, is just thoughts and emotions, behaviors, concepts, ideas, beliefs, opinions, this physical body. But you can see that all of that was dependent on previous causes and conditions. The thoughts that I have and feelings that I have all happened because of the world that I'm in, the time period that I'm in, the parents that I was born to. Everything down to it. The very clothes that I'm wearing, how I style my hair, the very fact that I do style my hair, making this video right now, it's all because of other causes and conditions. Everything was dependent, And it's the recognition of this that you can see that, you're not in control. You're just a happening like anything else. Like you see a plant grow, or you see a tree, and the way the tree's trunks go in certain different ways, that's just a happening. Did the tree choose to grow its trunk that way or that way? Well, maybe it did. But if it did have a choice, that choice was dependent on something else. And so basically it's this understanding, this insight that there is no free will, that you are a determined being, that whatever happens, every little thing was just lawful unfolding. It was just how nature goes. You plant a seed, you water it, you give it sun, you expect it to grow because that's the lawful way in which things unfold. And it's the exact same for humans. So it's the exact same for me. And so that's part of the insight into no self, that I'm just a bundle of causes and conditions dependent on a lot of other things. And it's, not me. I'm not that. And so you can go further and further, and it's quite deep, because then you start to see, what I can see that, these thoughts and feelings that I have and the things that I do isn't me. But what's this awareness that is aware of that one? Like this consciousness, like this, I'm alive right now. What's the thing that knows these things in the first place? What is that? And then we come down to the whole self-inquiry thing, where it's like, who am I? Who am I? Who do I believe myself to be? And you see that you're not your thoughts or emotions or your behaviors or your beliefs or opinions. Who am I? Well, I'm this just fucking aliveness. Like, I'm just alive. I'm aware. I'm conscious. And what is that? It has no substance. it becomes very trippy because you start to see that everything that you're aware of is dependent on awareness. If you died, the whole world's gone. I mean, who is to say that the world is actually gone? Like, if you died, there is no way of knowing if the world remains or the world is gone as well. And it's tricky when you get here because it's a very solipsistic way of thinking. But the thing is that solipsism is just another idea arising within awareness. It's just another thought. And so it even goes beyond solipsism, which can be quite scary. But really, like, I think enlightenment or awakening is about, seeing things clearly, what you can actually be sure of, what is actually real in your experience. It's about seeing through ideas as real. It's about seeing every idea or opinion as just another thought arising within awareness. A thought's no different to the sound of the cars driving past. It's no different. It's just phenomena arising within this space that is awareness, or whatever you want to call it. But this is another trap, is that you can be like, oh, I'm not my thoughts or my feelings. Oh, I'm awareness. You can shift your identity from your thoughts to awareness. But that's another thing that needs to be seen through. Like, it's there is no ground of being. There's nowhere to stand. And this is where I'm really at, like, I don't know what else there is. Because meditation is seeing things clearly, is taking a step back and not getting caught in any phenomena, whether it's your thoughts or feelings or sounds or bodily sensations. It's about taking a step back and being aware of that in an unjudgmental way. So it's like, my purpose is, it's like, I want to awaken, I want to be enlightened. But most days it's like, I don't even fucking know what that means, and then I'm just like lost my purpose, like, because I've had many glimpses, and I don't know fucking what you would call it, but many experiences of just something really existential and fundamental. The fact that I am, that I exist. And it's not in the sense that I, this separate self, exists, but I exist, or just existence, just amness. But of course that is me. But it's like, when I say I am, I'm not referring to just like this body, this person, I am. I'm referring to all of it, my sensory experience, which is this outside world as well. When I say I am, I'm also referring to those trees in the back of me, that they exist too. Because it seems that everything is dependent on me. And that's like, this is where it gets tricky, because that can be a very narcissistic thing to say, and this is where you can get caught in a messiah or god complex, where you think I'm God, but you're getting confused with the ego, with your separate self, and you think that this separate self is God. But really it's all God. But it's tricky, because it's like, I am God, and that's a very fucking narcissistic thing to say. But at the same time, it's like, it seems to be pointing that way. And this is where it can become tricky, is that I want to talk about enlightenment. I want to talk about insights that I've had, but to start talking about shit like I am God is very, no one's going to understand what that I'm referring to there. Even I don't, sometimes, but so it's hard, to I don't know, like, because I don't know what else to talk about. I don't know what else there is. Really, my purpose is to recognize the profundity in the fact that I exist, and that anything exists as well, and what is my relation into that. I exist, the world exists, what's my relation to the world? And is there a relation, or am I the world and the world is me? Is it just one thing? Because I've had glimpses of, I suppose, oneness, where it's like, you can all intellectually understand oneness. It's like, of course, everything has come from source. Like, if you, like, even the Big Bang, it's like, everything that exists now, the grass and the planets and the clouds and the rain and the shoes that you're wearing, and anything, you can see that it's all come from this Big Bang thing. You can call that source, or you can, what created the Big Bang, what created the thing that created the Big Bang, and on it goes. And you can see that, everything has come from one thing. But that, I don't think that one thing exists, because it's like, so if God created the Big Bang, what created God? Oh, another God. So another God created God that created the Big Bang, and on it goes. And it's like, what's the fundamental God? And it's like, there cannot be one source. There cannot be just source that exists. What it is that everything's dependent on everything else. Because if you say all this stuff came out of nothing, then that nothing can't be nothing. Because if things came out of that nothing, then there must have been something that caused all the things to come out of nothing. And that suggests that nothing was something. And so nothing doesn't actually exist. It exists as a concept only. There's only dependent origination, dependent arising. Form creates formlessness, formlessness creates form. It's not that there's formlessness and out of formlessness or out of spirit came form. The two work at the same time. So, yeah, you can intellectually understand how everything is made up of the same thing. Everything has come from the same thing. But everything is one and the same. But you can go deeper into an experiential level where you experientially realize that everything's one. And that's when it becomes fucking profound, because what is this oneness? What is it that is one? And this is where it becomes very weird, because you see that awareness must be that oneness. Without a conscious observer, who is to say that anything would exist? And so you start to see that this inmost self that you are, this fundamental self that you are, that's the whole universe experiencing itself. You start to see that the only way in which anything can be experienced is through awareness. And awareness is who you are fundamentally. And so this body and this mind and this awareness is like a vessel to experience the universe. It's the whole universe experiencing itself, or the whole infinity, everything experiencing itself, God experiencing itself. You are God experiencing its own creation. And yeah, like I said, this is where it gets tricky, because I don't like the idea of calling myself God. I don't like the idea of other people calling themselves God. However, I don't know how else to put it. And also, I don't like talking about it when I'm not there. Because at the moment, it's like, I'm just, everyday Jasper doing his thing, just sitting down, talking shit, whatever. I don't feel like I'm the entire universe or God experiencing itself. But what I'm saying is that I have experienced that many times. It feels like that. the most profound insight or, experience that I've had is just a recognition that I am alive. And when I have that recognition that I am alive, that I exist, along with it comes the recognition that everything else exists and it's very interconnected with who I am. And that I am everything else. That this whole experience is me. That everything is me. So these are the most profound experiences that I have. It's happened many times, but only really for like a split second, and it's not because afterwards sometimes I think, was that actually true? Did I actually have a experience into the ultimate reality? Was that true, or was I just projecting my own shit onto reality? I think that afterwards, but when it's actually happening, it's like I know for certain 100% that what I'm experiencing cannot be disproven, because it's the very fact that I exist. And you can ask anyone, do you exist? And everybody will say yes. And that's the realization I'm talking about. But it's a very it's a lot deeper than just saying yes, I exist. It's really coming to terms with the fact that it's realizing that you actually are, there is something rather than nothing. It's not just like there's blackness or there's nothingness. It's not just like it's just so fucking weird that something exists, that reality is. Because imagine if there was just nothing. It's fucking weird, profound, that I'm experiencing something. What the fuck is making this happen? What's making me experience? What is this what seems to be this higher intelligence that is animating nature, and that enables me to be aware, to experience? What the fuck is happening here? The very fact that I can experience is a miracle. It's magic. There is no explanation for it. Because, you can simply say, oh yes, I exist. Oh, I exist, fucking hell. Here I am, doing my thing. Gotta go to work, gotta get money. Oh, I've got problems here. And this is where language fails, because you can talk about this shit to people, but they're not going to recognize it unless they recognize it for themselves. Language doesn't help here. But really, it's magic. It's recognizing the miracle of existence, of life, of consciousness, existence itself. And when I recognize that I exist, it's not just a recognition that I exist, but a recognition that everything exists, but I am that. And so really this is where I want to be. I really want to be recognizing this miracle, or this magicalness that I'm experiencing. That's amazing. It's a miracle. But the vast majority, I overlook that. It's not important. Got to do my day-to-day grind, you know? But there is no day-to-day grind if you didn't exist. So that's the thing. It's falling in love with existing. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, fucking life is so hard. And yeah, there are challenges in life. Of course there are challenges. It's like, that's the whole kind of, you know, game of life. There are challenges. Things are going to be hard. But if you can, I just want to kind of step outside that secondary thing. I want to step outside the challenge and see the sacredness and miraculousness in the fact that I exist and that everything exists. Seeing the miracle and magic in life itself prior to any challenges. We're all going to face challenges, but are you going to see a challenge as some big daunting thing that you have to do, or are you going to see it as a game to play, as a dance? And even if you feel negative and it's like, fuck, I got this challenge, this is something really fucking hard in my life, what am I going to do? I want to be able to see that as another game. This negativity that I feel, I want to be able to see that as just another game that this particular person is doing. Me, Jasper. The challenges that come are dependent on previous causes and conditions, and I want to see that it's like, yeah, even if I feel completely negative and like I'm like fucking struggling really fucking hard, I still want to be able to step back, go meta, and still see the space in which all this shit arises within. This space in which this negativity and challenges arise. Because without this space, there would be no challenge, and this space is sacred. It has an innate goodness and it's magic. It's a miracle. So yeah, anyway, that's me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.